Bang! We are live. UFC Tsarukyan versus Dariush. This is a good card, man, and I can't wait to break it down with you. I ain't going to F around today. I'm not going to muck around. We're not going to be here for hours. Unfortunately, I know some people like that. I know some people don't like that. I like to kick back, have my tea, and kind of take my time on these fights. You know, I got my tea here, the PTBD mug. But unfortunately, I haven't got too much time today, guys. I'm off out buying a car today, so I'm probably going to be here for about 45 minutes. You know, it's been a good year, and your boy is treating himself to a little upgrade. So we're going to buy a car, and I'm going car shopping today. So unfortunately, I ain't going to be here for an hour or two, but I reckon we're going to bang this out in about 30 minutes, 45 minutes maybe. So yeah, I'm going to get straight into it, guys. Shout out to everyone here first. I want to do that. Tommy Unders is here. Eric Betts Fights is here. One thing I want to say as well is that I'm probably going to be coming in and out of consciousness with the internet connection, right? But I don't know why. I need to sort the internet out. I've got the best internet you can get in New Zealand. It's Fiber Max, best internet you can get. But for some reason, the internet connection in this room is mucking up. It's something to do with the wireless connection because I got a lot of doors closed and stuff like that. So I don't know. It was all right before I left for my trip, where you probably saw some of the vlogs that I've been doing. I went on a long trip. You know, I went all over Australia, stayed in some beautiful places. The Versace mansion, the Mouse's houses, stayed inside the Australian jungle. We had a good time there about a month ago. But when I come back home, the internet just doesn't want to work properly. So I don't know what's going on, but it is what it is, guys. I am aware of it. I can't do anything right now. Chris Dunley, shout out to Chris. Glyn Bott is here. Sean Hannon, the It Factor MMA. Eric Betts Fights, as I said, MMA line mover. Fubu, Wi-Fi. Don't worry, brother. I've got a Wi-Fi extender. Of course I do. I have everything needed, but for some reason it's just not working. Yeah, so I'll look into that when I have a chance. But today I'm going car shopping, you know, it's a little bit more important. So anyway, is what it is. We're going to get straight into the card. First fight of the night, Jamie Lynn Hall versus Veronica Hardy. Not the worst fight of all time to kick off the card. I will say that Veronica Hardy has looked improved in her last fight. You know, a lot of people will say that she didn't look improved. It was only because of Juliana Miller, because she's not a good fighter. And then a lot of people will also say that she looked really improved and it was an amazing performance and she's obviously a completely different fighter. And as I always say, I think it's somewhere in the middle. Most of the time when you hear people speak very convicted in one way and you hear other people speak convicted in the other way, most of the time they're both bullshitting and you can find the truth somewhere in the middle. And that's where I like to lie. I like to live in the gray area of MMA betting. And the reason is because MMA betting is not black and white. For the most part, sports betting in general is not black and white. There's a lot of gray area. I said this on Clint Diehard MMA's podcast a couple of days ago when I went on there. There's a lot of gray area in fighting, in betting, in gambling, in betting on fighting. And so you can't just be super convicted in multiple areas most of the time, because usually it means you're ignoring big parts of the fight, and you never want to ignore parts of the fight. So I know it's not aesthetically pleasing to hear someone say something like, oh, you know, this fighter could win, but then this fighter could also win, but then this fighter might do that. But at the end of the day, guys, that's the truth, right? That is the truth of the matter. Most fights can go multiple different ways. It's very rare where we have a fight where it's like 95% of the time it's going to go one way. So I think that Veronica Hardy is clearly improved, but I also think that we don't know how improved because Juliana Miller obviously wasn't the girl to test their improvements that much. Jamie Lynn Horth is a decent fighter. She's undefeated. She's got good wins on her record. She beat Myra Cantamera, was a girl who actually went life and death with Amanda Lemos back in the day. But, you know, Myra's a bit on the older side now. She also beat Lupita Godinez twice in the amateurs. I think a lot of people won't know that, but she did. She has 2 wins over Lupita Godinez. But you're talking 2013, 2015, I think. I mean, talking 10 years ago, you know. So a lot has changed since then. Obviously, both fighters have changed a lot. And she got a win over Hayley Cowan last time out, which I don't think she's very good, Hayley Cowan. She's very strong, very physical. But Jamie Lynn Horth was able to match the physicality quite well. I do think that she still was thrown about a little bit in the clinch there, but she also had her moments in the clinch. So she's a very basic fighter. 1-2s, clinch, waste some time. She seems decent if she gets on top. You know, she does have some finishing threat. But I also think that Veronica Hardy has a striking edge in this fight. I think early, Veronica's going to win the fight. You know, I think the first 2 to 3 minutes of the fight, I think it's clearly going to go to Hardy. When I say clearly, it's women's MMA. They're probably not going to damage each other. It can only be so clear in a striking fight. But clear enough. I think Hardy's in and out movement is going to give her some problems. I think she's got a speed advantage, Veronica Hardy, but she is a lot smaller. So I feel like Veronica Hardy's got a good chance of winning the first half of the fight, and then Horth probably will start to grow into the fight the later the fight goes. Overall, I think Hardy's going to win the fight. I feel like she's going to have enough gas to last, and she's probably going to win the early round. So I'm going to give her the edge for that reason. Next fight, Wellington Turman versus Jared Gooden. Not too much to say about this one. Wellington Turman has all the skills, but he doesn't put them together, guys. You know, so it's like when I'm watching him fight, and I know people say, no, he doesn't have all the skills. He's only a grappler. I completely disagree. I think he's a decent striker. I think his striking is also improving every time out, you know. And I think that he's got the skills to be a good fighter. I just feel like his chin lets him down at times. His fight IQ lets him down at times. And we've seen it time and time again. You know, will that happen in this fight? Jared Gooden does have power. His chin could let him down. But overall, I think Wellington Turman has too many advantages to lose the fight consistently. So I'm going with Wellington Turman to get the win, probably by decision. Potentially could get a submission if the fight gets to the mat. But we've seen time and time again with this Wellington Turman guy that, yeah, he might have the skills to finish someone on the ground, but he just doesn't really do it. I mean, how many finishes has he got in the UFC? Let's go on his record now. I don't think he's got a lot of finishes in the UFC, guys. I mean, I'd say he might not even have one. When I was watching tape on him, I didn't see him finish. So let's have a look. Yeah, so the guy's not finished ever in the UFC. Okay, Misha Serkinov. Yeah, I remember that fight, Misha Serkinov. I didn't tape it for this one. I didn't think it was very, you know, indicative of this fight. But he finished Misha Serkinov. But Misha is a massive, massive flake. He's been finished many, many times. Couldn't finish Sam Alvey. Bad luck in 2021. Marcus Perez, that guy is not legit. Couldn't finish him. You know, I don't think this guy's much of a finisher. Jared Gooden, he seems fairly tough. I mean, Abu Bakr couldn't get him out of there. His last fight, Carsten Harris, kind of a finisher, didn't get him out of there. I do think Wellington Turman's going to win the fight, though. Ihor Peteria versus Rodolfo Bellato. Yeah, I think the line's wide on this one. I'm not sure if I'm going to bet it in any way. I probably will. I'll probably bet it. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll bet it by decision. Maybe I'll bet it by KO. It depends if I'm going to get a good price on that market wide when the full prop odds are released. And as you know, guys, I don't send out bets until full prop odds are released. And let me address this, right? Because I've been doing this for 5 years, but I haven't really addressed the fakes and the frauds in the game as much as probably I should. Right? I did a video on my channel yesterday. You can go and watch that if you want. Speaking about, there's a better RJ Bets. I said, is he a scammer or a fraud? You can go watch that scammer or legit. You can go watch that video if you want. But there's many, many frauds in this game. Many scammers. Yeah, many sleazeballs. And they're just trying to scam your hard-earned money. Right? And one of the things that they do, so you got levels of scamming, right? You got scammers where they just got no idea about sports betting and just putting their picks out, right? That's just full scamming. Then you got other levels of scamming where, yeah, the guy might be a decent sports bettor, but he's tipping openers. He's tipping lines that are not widely available. Now, is he scamming? Yeah, because you can't bet those lines. So, like, there's tons of people out there in MMA gambling and other sports gambling, because I'm heavy into other sports over the last few months. I've delved into multiple sports, and for many years I've been betting on greyhound racing and horse racing, so I know those industries. And when I first started, I was betting on football as well, and I went for a period of betting on basketball, so I know many industries, right? And it's across all industries. These gamblers will tip lines that are unavailable to you. So they'll tip a line at plus 500, which was an opener that lasted for 5 minutes, and now the line is plus 300, right? So they tip plus 100. 500, but now it's 300. So if that bet wins, they won 5 units on their record, but you only could win 3 units. So that's 2 units less on one bet. If we extrapolate this over 1,000 bets, which you have in a year, 2,000 bets. Let's say half of them are winners, all right, or a quarter of them are winners, 250. That's 250 2-unit differences, right? That's 500 units difference between your bankroll and the person tipping's bankroll. Even if they didn't fully scam, because they're tipping openers and unavailable lines, these people need to be called out. These people need to be outed. So the viewers, people that don't have time to spend 40 hours, 30 hours, 20 hours a week taping, who are following tipsters like myself and other people, they can protect their bankrolls and not be scammed by flashy bet slips, flashy records, right? So I think I'm going to start calling these people out because they need to be called out. Because it's just, I hate this industry, man. I've been speaking for years about scammers, years, but maybe not too much, right? So maybe I should do it a little bit more. But anyway, man, a little tangent because I hate the sleazeballs in this game. But let's go back to the fight. So as I said, maybe I'll play Ihor Potieria by KO, but I ain't gonna do it until the lines are widely available, or I can get when I can get good money down. Because that's another thing. Yeah, they might tip a line that you can get, but you can only bet $25 on it, $50 because they tipped it so early. No liquidity in the market. So that's another form of scam, which isn't directly super scam. So I'm gonna probably bet Pretoria moneyline or KO, but if I'm gonna bet KO, I'm gonna do it when the props are widely available, which is gonna happen today or tomorrow. So I just feel like Bellato he's way better of a fight. He's got better grappling, he's got better striking, even probably. He's got way better cardio. He's just better all around. You know, he probably is gonna break Pretoria. My prediction for this fight is Bellato KO 2 or something. You know, similar to the Taha fight in his last fight, Talar fight, but I think Pretoria has a good chance of knocking him out early, at least in round 1 or 2. Round 3, I don't think he's going to get a knockout, but round 1 or 2, it definitely can happen. Bellato keeps his chin up in the air. I bet on Bellato at like plus 300 last time in his last fight. And I also bet on over 1.5. And, you know, he cashed me both bets. But in this fight, I think the dynamics are a little bit different. I think most fighters coming off big wins on Dana White's Contender Series, he was the main event in Dana White's Contender Series. Oftentimes, they're overvalued in the next UFC fight. I feel like that's happening here a little bit, right? Potieria is a very bad fighter, so it's tough to bet on him, but lines are lines, guys, and I think it's clearly a little bit wide. The next fight we have is Steve Garcia versus Melkaziel Costa. Very good fight. I think Costa's the side here. Steve Garcia obviously has the chance to put those hands on him, but I just feel like Costa's going to kick him to fuck, man. I think Costa's going to kick away and just consistently win minutes with kicks. And I also think he can finish him. I think he can hurt him to the body. I think he can head kick him. I think that if Steve Garcia doesn't get his grappling going, which is a possibility in this fight, then I think he's going to be in trouble. Costa just has way more tools to win this fight. He way more tools, better range control, better distance management, probably better durability. I mean, Steve Garcia gets dropped, wobbled, hurt in almost every single one of his fights when you watch them. And Costa has way more strikes. Costa will spin, not the worst jab of all time, many kicks, where Steve Garcia is just going to wing bombs, right? And maybe take you down. Like, I just feel like Costa's the much more educated striker, and I think that's going to show in this fight. That will probably be a striking fight. Next fight is Joe Solecki versus Drakkar Klose. Very good fight. One I went back and forth on originally because when I first was going to bet on this fight before tape, I was going to bet on Drakkar Klose. You know, before tape, I was like, I kind of feel like Drakkar, all he needs to do is defend the takedowns and he's going to win the fight. And I kind of feel the same after tape, but what I saw on tape was that Drakkar won't defend the takedowns, and even if he does, he'll probably get his back taken. In almost every single one of Drakkar's closest fights, he gets his back taken. Like every single one of his fights. I wouldn't be like, I'd actually be quite surprised if Joe doesn't get his back in this fight. Now, is he going to sub him? You know, you could be lazy and say Dariush didn't sub him with his back. No one else has subbed him when they've got his back, so he's probably going to survive, which is possible, but you can't keep giving your back and surviving, especially against a grappler like Joe Solecki. You know, I'm not saying that he's a better grappler than Dariush, but I am saying that from the back position, they're very similar, Dariush and Joe Solecki. Definitely. If they put the gi on and roll, I don't really know, right? I guess Dariush probably will be able to maintain top control because Selecki doesn't like being on his back, whereas I think Dariush is a much better scrambler and probably has a much better guard. But from top position, whether on the back or just in mount, I think Selecki is on the level of Dariush, if not better. I really do believe that. In terms of keeping control, maybe not finishing, but at least keeping control. And finishing comes from control a lot of times. So, I could go very nerdy about the specifics of the jiu-jitsu in this fight, but I just feel like Selecki's going to have a good chance of submitting him. If he doesn't, that's one round done easily. And then he only has to win one of the next 2 rounds. It's very hard to get to a bet on Drakar when it's almost guaranteed that Joe's going to take his back at one point, which sounds crazy, but I've just seen it way too many times. It's like in almost every fight, guys, even the ones he wins, which is most of the ones. He hasn't lost that many times in the UFC, but he just gives his back too much. And I think against Joe Selecki, it's just not. It's a bad stylistic matchup, right? Someone who's going to jump to the back at any point and you just love giving your back up. It's just a bad stylistic matchup for close, in my opinion. And I feel like Joe Selecki can blow him out of the water with 10-8s from the back or submissions, where I think on the feet, it's close is going to win, but he's not going to 10-8 him unless he lands a knockout blow, which I think is unlikely. Could happen, but I think it's unlikely. So Selecki has more of a favorite upside, in my opinion. So Cody Brundage versus Zachary Reese, like I said in the Bellato fight, these fighters coming off big wins in Dana White's Contender Series, especially when they have a finishing win, and especially when they have when they're the main event. A lot of fighters coming off the Dana White's Contender Series are overvalued in their next fight, and I think that's what we're seeing here. At the end of the day, man, this doesn't deserve a long breakdown. Zachary Reese has never been out of round 1 in his pro career. He's actually barely been past 1 minute in his pro career. And now he's a minus 300 against Cody Brundage. I don't agree with it. Zachary Reese will probably finish in round 1. Cody is susceptible to being run over a little bit. He is susceptible to becoming the nail. But if he doesn't finish him in round 1, how can you be confident on Zachary Reese? It's almost impossible. It is impossible. It is impossible. So I think that Cody Brundage has a good chance in this fight to win. I think he has a much better chance than the odds indicate on a macro scale. So I think Cody Brundage is the deserved side in this fight. Whatever I think about the winner or loser, it's just stupid to say because Reese has less than 1 minute of fight time. So I can come out here and say, I think Reese is going to come out and get an armbar. He seems to have very good jiu-jitsu, especially from guard, like we saw in the Aronov fight. It's just dumb to make a very technical breakdown on this fight. The guy's got 1 minute of fight time. We have no idea how he reacts to getting hit. We have no idea how he reacts to being in a fight for 3 minutes or more. There's no point in, technically breaking this fight down. The line seems to be wide to me, and that's all I'm going to say. Miesha Tate versus Julia Avila. This is a good fight. Well, let me completely recheck that. This is an interesting fight, I should say. And what I mean by that is this is a shit show of a fight and that's why it's interesting, because it's a shit show because I don't know who's going to win, right? So both fighters have clear paths to victory. Julia Avila is probably going to tee off on Miesha Tate and probably hurt her and maybe even wobble or rock her, maybe even finish her if the fight stays on the feet. Miesha's very tough, but Raging Panda hits like a panda, because I'm sure pandas hit quite hard. They're huge. Whereas Miesha Tate hits like a cupcake. She doesn't have striking power at all. She doesn't have striking really, but she has very good grappling, right? When she gets on top of you, she can keep you down for extended periods. And we've seen in Avila's career that she has been taken down, especially in the Sijara Eubanks fight, and she can kind of lose fights that way. So I wouldn't be surprised if Miesha Tate clearly wins by grappling, but I also wouldn't be surprised if she clearly loses by striking. So I think this is a terrible fight to back on the money lines. If you want to back anything, I'd play something like Avila KO at big prices, Avila decision if you just want to sweat it, if you think Avila's going to win, and then Miesha Tate decision. I think those are the ways to play it. Sometimes if we can't sometimes if we can't play the money lines because the lines are fairly accurate, which in this fight probably are, then what we do is we attack props, right? That's how we attack these fights. So I'm going to say Miesha Tate grinds out a decision win. I spoke in depth on this fight in the Die Hard MMA podcast, but basically Julia Avila over the last couple of years hasn't been training that much. She's had a baby. She's coming back, her first fight since being a mother. She also, a couple years prior to that, got kicked out of her gym, had lots of issues with her gym owner. So I don't think she was training that hard. Glyn is saying now that not only she had a child, she had a C-section. So I didn't know that personally. I'm giving you a lot of backstory to Avila, but I didn't know she had a C-section. I'd be, Glyn is saying he thinks so. I'd be keen to actually look into that a little bit deeper. That's going to affect you a lot more than a regular birth. A regular birth is going to affect you as well. Clint said he didn't want to be cancelled, so he didn't really want to say it too tough. But at the end of the day, man, having a baby fucks you up, right? Like, of course it does. Let's not pull our punches here. Facts are facts, right? We can speak facts. And even if we can't, I don't give a shit. I'm always going to speak facts. No one can cancel me. I don't give a shit. I am who I am, right? So being a woman is fucking tough to be a fighter. Because first of all, every single month you lose a fuck ton of blood, right? So women fighters that are fighting during around their period, they're at a massive, massive disadvantage, right? If any of you have ever had a girlfriend, if you ain't an incel and you've had a girlfriend, you know what women go through every month, right? So first of all, they're at a disadvantage for that. And maybe that's why women's MMA is more volatile, because you never know who is on their period and who's, feeling drained from the physical things they're going through in their body. Weight cuts are harder when you're going through your cycle, that type of stuff. And then on top of that, every now and then they pop out a kid or two, right? Which is what Julia Avila has done. And that takes a tremendous toll on the human body. So coming back from having a child is very hard for me to pick a fighter to win a fight. Not saying that she can't. Maybe she's fully recovered. She looks great. We've seen it before that women have been, but I just don't know. It's more volatility. I'd rather say no than yes, obviously, right? If someone has surgery, right, and then they're coming back 9 months later, are you going to lean that they're going to be better or worse at fighting? If you have to pick better or worse, you're going to pick worse. Maybe it's neutral, maybe it's better. But gun to the head, you're going to pick worse, of course. Same thing as having a kid. You're going to pick worse. So I think Miesha Tate has got some of the narrative and some of the intangibles going on this fight. And it's funny, I've spoke about this fight, which is the biggest shit show on the entire card in terms of predictions, but I've spoken on it long enough. And as I always say, because there's things to speak about, sometimes I'll run through the fight. Sometimes it's very important to speak about these fights. And in my opinion, this is one important to speak about. And hopefully you can take this knowledge into future fights. There's 3 ways of capping a fight, guys. This is all you need to know, right? This is the game I'm dropping on you here. You look at the stylistics, you look at the statistics, and you look at the intangibles. And I believe that stylistically, both fighters have a massive, massive advantage over each other. I believe statistically, both fighters have a decent advantage over each other. Julia Avila has massive amount of knockdowns and wobbles statistically. And then Miesha Tate, she doesn't. I haven't actually looked at the striking stats, but I would hazard to guess that the striking stats are in favor of Avila. And if they're not, it will be heavily decided on, because Julia Avila, maybe she's not high volume, but she's hurting girls a lot, right? And then the intangibles are clearly on Miesha Tate's side. So for that reason, and she's an underdog. So I'll go with Miesha Tate in this spot. Next fight we got is Punahele Soriano versus Dustin Stoltzfus. I don't rate Dustin Stoltzfus too much, guys. He's 1-5 in his last 5 fights, 1-4 in his last 5 fights. I don't think he's a great fighter. I think he's going to get cracked by Punahele Soriano. Soriano's a decent fighter, man. Like, I know a lot of people are low on Soriano because of his last fight against Kopylov, where the whole world was betting him against Kopylov. And we went the contrarian route and bet Roman Kopylov at a plus 150 price tag, I think. And he just completely dominated and looked in the -5 to -600 range. I think a lot of people are low on him because of that. But he's still a big favorite. But I think deserved favorite. I honestly think he could be -3, 400 here. I think he wins this fight. 75% is fine to me. 75% is fine, guys. As AW said, it's probably going to be inside the distance. It's probably going to be a knockout. It's probably going to be round 1. Dustin Stoltzfus is too hittable. He doesn't have the striking defense to keep away from Puna's big bombs. So I think it's going to be a KO. Next fight is Clay Guida versus Joaquim Silva. A bit of a shit show of a fight. Both guys on the older side. Clay Guida 41, about to be 42. He's going to be 42 in a couple of days. This guy's going to be 42. I never knew that. Joaquim Silva is 34 years old. So, yeah, man, I think that Joaquim Silva showed enough, right? Now, BJJ showed enough in his last fight that we could make him a favorite in this fight. I'm not going to be getting involved at minus 350s, though, because Clay Guida could grapple him. It is possible. He's been grappled before. But he's shown enough to me in a Tsarukyan fight that he's still there. He still hits very hard. We've seen that in multiple fights. Jesse Ronson fight recently, Arman Tsarukyan fight. And we know he has the submissions in his back pocket. He submitted Neil Magny. He hasn't got a submission win in the UFC, even though his name is BJJ. But he got a submission win not too long ago against Neil Magny in the grappling contest. So we know it's still there. I definitely feel like he could get a submission guillotine here when Clay is shooting in on a takedown. I feel like Joaquim Silva inside the distance is, I think that's the way to go. Sean Brady versus Kelvin Gastelum. Another, I won't call it a shit show, but I'll just call it a fight that I just don't want to bet. I'm more leaning on the Kelvin Gastelum side as the week goes along. And that's because, I was kind of leaning Sean Brady because I felt like he has some takedown upside. And Kelvin Gastelum has struggled with takedowns in his career. But the more I looked into it, the more I watched tape, which I have actually watched tape as the week has gone on over the last 2 days, the last 48 hours, I've actually watched more tape. And I decided to watch a couple more fights of Kelvin Gastelum's and Sean Brady's. And the reason is because in my head, I didn't think Sean Brady shot that many times against Bilal Muhammad. And I was thinking, if he shoots a lot, he's probably going to win the fight. If he doesn't shoot, then he's not going to win. And my memory of the Bilal Muhammad fight was a little bit clouded. When I went back and watched that fight, it seemed as if Sean Brady actually did shoot a little bit more than I thought, right? I didn't think he shot a lot of takedowns against Bilal Muhammad. From what I remember of the fight, even though I taped it like last week, I thought it was like a stand-up fight. But going back, Sean Brady actually did try and take him down a couple of times, and he was reversed. So, but the way he shot in and took him down, it didn't give me much hope that he would get Kelvin Gastelum down, which is weird because in my head I was saying, if he is shooting consistently on Bilal, I'm probably going to lean to Bilal. I'm probably going to lean to Brady. But Brady's known as this guy who's an ox and he just can get anyone down. But I don't know if he's going to be able to consistently get Gastelum down, man. If he gets him down, he could do damage on top. That's why it's a little bit tricky. But when I look into Sean Brady's career, that Bilal Muhammad fight, it's funny because I was going back and watching that fight specifically to see the grappling. And when I just see him getting teed off on again in that second round, and I don't want to say he quit, but it seemed like he cardio dumped. He kind of just gave up a little bit. He was getting teed off on. He couldn't get away from Bilal. Bilal's not this elite striker. It wasn't a good look, in my opinion. Then you go back and watch the Michael Chiesa fight. The same thing happened in round 3, where Chiesa was literally chasing him. If you go back and watch the fight, he's chasing him around the octagon, and Brady's like falling all over the place. If there was another round 4, Chiesa probably finishes him. If there was another 2 minutes, he probably finishes him. So, even in the Court McGee fight, he slowed down heavily in round 3. So, if you go back and watch these fights, on the feet, he's slowing down heavily. If he can't get his grappling game going, even in a Jake Matthews fight, the guy's kind of getting pieced up before he gets the takedown. So, I don't know, man. It's like, I'm leaning Kelvin Gastelum a lot more than I was, which is weird. It doesn't happen a lot, guys. It really doesn't. Maybe I was just tired when I first taped this fight last week, so I do my tape early most of the time. Maybe I was tired when I first taped this fight, and I'm just checking the prices right now. Maybe I was. Yeah, so you see KG going in as he's coming in as an underdog here, and I don't know, man. I'm leaning more on the KG side as the week goes along. And it's really just watching that tape again and seeing how bad Brady has looked in some of these striking exchanges. Yeah, he dropped Court McGee with a left hook in round 1, But if you go back and actually watch the fight and not just the highlights of him getting a drop in round 1, you actually see that Court started to come on later in round 3. And, yeah, as I said, I don't need to repeat myself. There's been many other circumstances where I don't think he's looked good on the feet. KG is a good striker, man. He's a very good boxer. Chris Curtis, one of the best boxers in the division, and we saw what KG done to him. You can say headbutt or whatnot. They was going tit for tat in a boxing, man. KG was landing some nukes. And I just feel like if Kelvin lands some shots here, Brady could quit again. He really could, man. I might bet Kelvin Gastelum, guys. It's very rare where I go back on tape and change my pick. And by the way, I didn't change my pick. I didn't say Brady's going to win the fight. I was kind of leaning to Brady, but I literally said I want to tape more. So, thinking about it, it makes sense that I've changed my pick. Because I said, I don't know, guys. I might go back and watch more tape. And now I have watched more tape. And now I'm in front of you after watching more tape. So, but I will say it's kind of like, it's unusual where I tape it and then I tape it more and I change the pick. Usually over the first few fights, the first 45 minutes to an hour of tape, I know what I want to pick. But yeah, overall, I'm leaning more on a Kelvin Gastelum side now. It really comes down to his weight cut. It really comes down to his weight cut, man. Fubu's saying Kelvin looks in great shape. He looks in decent shape, but we don't know how he's going to affect him on the scales after the weight cut. He hasn't gone through the weight cut yet. He's weight cutting, right? He's restricting calories. He probably has been doing for a few weeks. He's training harder. He's sweating out more calories, but he isn't in the sauna. He isn't in the bath. He isn't in the hot bath. He hasn't gone through the weight cut yet, right? So he can look in great shape now. It doesn't mean too much. It's a good sign. It's not a negative, but the weight cut, which is going to happen over the next 48 hours, is going to really tell us the truth about, how Kelvin is going to look at 170. Because if he botches that weight cut, then he might not have the cardio himself to push, which is what I've seen a deficiency on the Brady side. Cardio and the striking defense when the cardio hits him, and just in general, because round one, as I say, of the Matthews fight, he was getting pieced up. So yeah, man, I like this fight. I'm very interested. I'm very interested in this fight, actually. No, but Clint said he looked bad and he doesn't. Fair enough. Yeah, honestly, guys, I've seen that one picture of him where he's covering the gut a little bit, but he's all good. You know what I mean? Like, this is covering the gut, sucking in, but he's got the nice arms. He looks a little bit leaner. You know what I mean? So it looks decent, but yeah, I'll have a look at a little bit more. Glimbot 5000 saying taping more and changing your mind shows how objective you are. Yeah, it's true. It's true. It is a good sign. I always say to people, if I am leaning one way before tape and then I lean in the other way after tape, that's usually a sign that the pick is solid, right? And my read is solid because I'm not being biased at all because I was literally changed my pick, right? What else are we saying? I will, I've been wanting to get through this fast, so I haven't addressed the comments, but I've got some time. I've got some time before I go and see the cars. So I'm seeing a few cars today, but yeah, let me go back, scroll up and address some comments. Brady has no surgery before the Bilal fight. Fair enough. Fubu saying BMW. So the car I'm looking at, the couple cars I'm looking at is either an Aston Martin Vantage or a BMW i8. The BMW i8 was the car I drove in Australia. Obviously, I don't live in Australia, but when I go to these different countries, I rent out a car, drive a car around, so I have something to drive about for the period I'm there. And I rented out this BMW i8 for a couple of weeks, and I actually liked the car a lot. Let me show you something here. I actually like the car a lot, BMW i8. And maybe you guys can let me know what one you like. So we've got the BMW i8, which is here. And my one kind of looks like this one. So it's a decent car. It's a nice car. It's a cool car, you know what I'm saying? But I'm kind of leaning a bit more for the Aston Martin Vantage, to be honest. And then the Aston Martin Vantage, let's have a little vote. You can tell me what one I maybe should buy. Aston's a bit more respectable, you know. Then we got Aston Martin. My name's James. James Bond's car, you know what I mean? We've got the Aston Martin Vantage here, which looks pretty cool. And then obviously we got the BMW i8, which also looks cool. So I don't know, man. Like the BMW i8 is more of a sports car. It's electric as well, half electric. It's got the doors that go up, which is obviously always cool. But then the Vantage is more sleek, more calm. It doesn't look as cool, but it's a little bit more classy, I would say. So I don't know, man. There's a few cars I'm looking at. Maybe a little bit more. I might look at some other cars as well, but those are the cars I'm looking at today. You're a Brit. You got to go to Aston. I know, man. I'm a Brit. My name's James. You know what I'm saying? Like James Bond, Aston Martin. I don't know. Definitely love the BMW for your video. Yeah, I vote BMW. Yeah, so there's a few things. I don't know though. I don't know. Fubu's saying that he did 6 weeks at Bangtao and 6 weeks with Henry. That's nice. Thoughts on Reece Brundage under 1.5? Yeah, I mean, I would say it hits, but I'm not laying minus 200 because how does Brees look at 4 minutes? He might completely gas out. And then Brundage, I don't trust Brundage massively to finish. Do you know what I mean? So, like, it might just turn into a sloppy affair after 3-4 minutes. So, I don't know. I like it. Sprinkle, though. What do you mean by quick snee, bro? I don't know what that means. Is that a type of car or something? Yeah, Brady hasn't fought in a while, which is true. He hasn't fought in a while, so, you know, that couldn't affect him. And the last fight, he got ran over, man. So, you know, might affect him even more. All right, now we're on the last 3 fights now. Rob Font versus Davison Figueiredo. Another fight where I don't want nothing to do with it, guys. You see, there's a running. It's funny because there's a running theme on this card where there's a lot of fights I don't want anything to do with. But, oh, okay, someone's called Quick Sneak. Oh, fair enough. I was like, that ain't a car, but I don't want to sound stupid. Okay, what did he say? Oh, close round 3. Yeah, I don't mind that. I don't mind close round 3 because if it gets there, likely Seleki's going to be a little bit gassed. It ain't a bad shot. All right, Rob Font versus Davison Figueiredo. Great fight, first of all. Very exciting fight. But, man, like Rob Font should really piece him up. You know, he really should 1-2 all day, should hook him all day. Honestly, he should kind of embarrass Davison Figueiredo here. But Rob Font, we know his chin's a bit liable to just break at any one point. We've seen him dominated in the grappling a couple of times. He did get submitted with a guillotine off a guy that's like a similar stylistic guy to Figgy, where he'll swing hooks, hit hard, and then jump on the gilly. So I've seen him suffer to that type of stylistic matchup before. And then we don't know how Figgy's going to look at 135. I mean, he's 35 years old, but Rob Font is 36 years old. But we have to admit that Figgy's looked way more degenerated in his last few fights than Rob Font has. But Figgy's been fighting the same guy for 4 times. So you see, like, if you just rewind what I just said and listen to all of these things I'm saying, there's so much volatility. There's so many moving parts. There's so many things that we don't know. We don't know how Rob Font's chin's going to hold up. Yeah, it's hard to say because he does take shots and look all right sometimes. But then sometimes he just wobbles and gets dropped every fight. Like, dropped 3-4 times by Marlon Vera, dropped 3-4 times by Jose Aldo. I would say Davison Figueiredo could pack a punch similar to Jose Aldo and Marlon Vera. I don't think it's like massively different. Talking about like one punch power, Davison is on that similar level. 100% he is. So, you know, with the hands, I'd say he hits way harder than Cheeto, actually, one punch power. So he definitely could just get cracked. It's very hard for me to say Font's chin is going to be fine over 15 minutes. It's also, you know, I don't take too much away from him getting guillotined, but that is something to think about. You know, Davison has many guillotines on his record, and he will jump on them very quickly. And Font has been guillotined. And then on top of that, Davison might look great at 135. He's been needing to move up for a long time. He was speaking about moving up a couple of fights ago, but then he just fought Brandon Moreno for the trilogy and whatnot. So maybe he looks good here. I'm not saying it's impossible. In my opinion, he's kind of over the hill, but I don't know. I'm not confident enough to say that and bet Rob Font. And then on top of that, he's moving up in weight class. We don't know how he's going to look moving up in this weight class, right? And sorry, on top of that, it's the first time he isn't fighting Brandon Moreno. It's probably going to be very good for his mentality. He's probably going to be able to showcase some skills that he wasn't able to showcase in the Brandon Moreno fight because Moreno kind of had his number. You know, he knew what he was going to do. So Font maybe it's a different stylistic matchup. So, it's not going to look the same. It ain't going to look the same as the Brandon Moreno fight. So, yeah, man, a big pass from me. I'd look to attack a prop. Like I said earlier in the card, if we don't have any money lines appealing, I'd look to attack a prop. But overall, I think Font should be favored. He's the much better fighter overall. He's more well-rounded. And, I mean, I don't know if he's more well-rounded, but I think he's way bigger. His reach advantage is there. His height advantage is there. He's been fighting the top of the top of the top at 135. Now he's fighting the top of the top at 125, who may be on a decline. I just feel like there's a lot of intangibles that go on the Rob Font side. I'd lean that they go on the Rob Font side. It may be that moving up to 135, he looks better, right? It may be that he's rejuvenated here, but I think I'd lean that he won't be. So I'm going to pick Rob Font overall. The next fight is Jalen Turner versus Bobby Green. Weird fight. Another weird fight for me, guys. Another fight where you probably attack props, unless you want to take the dog shot on Bobby Green. I don't mind a dog shot on Bobby Green. We have to remember, Jalen Turner's lost 7 fights. And I know he's a good fighter, but he's lost 7 fights, right? There's a reason why he's lost 7 fights, right? Like, we just have to say that. I know a lot of them were early. I know he's been in the UFC for a long time. It is what it is, guys, right? Someone like Khabib would never lose 7 fights, okay? So, like, there is a difference. I know there's massive context, but it is worth mentioning with the context, in my opinion. I don't think it's worth ignoring, right? On top of that, he's never won a decision. Look at his record. He's never, ever, ever, ever won a decision. Even in the amateurs, the only fight that went to a decision, he lost. Yeah? Against this dude, Pepper. If you go back and look at his pro record, split decision loss, another unanimous decision loss, then 2 split decision losses in a row. So the guy has never won a decision. So how can you be confident that this minus 250 is going to win a decision against Bobby Green? You better think he's getting him out of there, because Bobby Green, I know he's lost a few decisions as well, but Bobby Green is kind of king of decisions. And what I mean by that is, like, yes, he's lost some close decisions, some split decisions or decisions that should have gone his way. But what I mean is, like, he's won a lot of decisions too. Eric Coach decision. He went on a 3 decision win streak there against Clay Guida, Lando Venata, Alan Patrick. The Thiago Moises fight was very close. That could have been a win to him. The Trinado fight was not, was fairly close as well. The close fight wasn't super wide either. Like, all of these fights, he's winning or losing by decision. They're close. And yes, you could say the same about Turner, but look, I'm just not confident on a guy that's never won by decision to win via decision. So, yeah, maybe he's going to knock him out in round 1, but Bobby Green doesn't really get finished, guys. Let's have a look at his record again, right? Or at least on the feet, right? Ground and pound, yeah, you can say whatever you want. He went toe-to-toe with Fiziev for 3 rounds. Is Hooker more dangerous than Fiziev? Maybe for 5 minutes, but I don't think for 15 minutes. And he went toe-to-toe with him for 15 minutes, right? What else we got to say? Like, I don't know, man. Like, honestly, this fight's weird to me. I don't see why Jalen Turner is coming in on a week's notice and he's minus 250. I don't really agree with it. I think Bobby Green can win here. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, guys. I'm not really confident on Bobby Green to win either. I think Jalen's going to fuck him up early, but Bobby Green, in my opinion, just has to survive round. If Bobby Green survives round 1, I think this is no. If Bobby Green survives round 1, yeah, I think this is a 50-50 fight, because then I lean Bobby Green to edge round 2, and I think he's definitely going to win round 3. But I think Turner's going to win round 1. So with that round 1 bagged, it becomes basically a 50-50 fight. I'm saying that Green basically has round 3 bagged. Turner has round 1 bagged for the most part. And I think round 2, it's probably 50-50, because Jalen Turner has 8 minutes of solid gas, 7.5 minutes of solid gas. So I don't know, man. Fubu's saying Green is slowed and his chin has declined. That's true. Gordon was outboxing him. But I also think Jalen Turner has a dodgy chin. So I wouldn't be surprised if Green caught him. And, you can't take too much away from Green for the Gordon fight because it lasted, 1 minute and 30 seconds. Sometimes it takes some time. But I do think Green is definitely on a downslope. But doesn't matter how much of a downslope Green is on. It wasn't as bad as Dan Hooker, who just beat Jalen Turner, So it's like, I don't know, man. This fight's weird to me. All right, the main event, Beneil Dariush versus Arman Tsarukyan. Very good main event. I've already spoken about this fight in depth, guys, on Clint's Die Hard MMA podcast. I'm just going to say that I think the line's wide. I think plus 240 on Beneil Dariush is kind of disrespectful, but they always like to disrespect Dariush. The one time they didn't disrespect him was against Charles Oliveira, and he lost the fight, which is quite funny. But Dariush always gets disrespected. I don't really see what Arman Tsarukyan is going to do to him that is going to make Dariush a plus 240, right? I guess you could say that he's younger and he's more physical, but that's really it. I don't really see anything else. I don't think he's going to be able to grapple fuck Beneil Dariush. I've never ever seen Beneil Dariush grapple fucked in my entire career. Am I just going to believe that Arman Tsarukyan is going to do it when he couldn't do it to Gamrot, and Gamrot couldn't do it to Beneil Dariush? So MMA math it if you want. Arman Tsarukyan has had trouble grappling some guys. He had trouble grappling Neto BJJ a little bit. He finished him via grappling, but it wasn't easy. He still had a bit of trouble. And I think Beneil Dariush is going to defend the takedowns and scramble way better than Neto BJJ, actually. So I think, the gas tank issue is weird because I feel like they both gas out a little bit, but I think the youth and the tenacity and just the trajectory of Tsarukyan is probably going to make him a bit more dangerous as the fight goes on. Whereas I feel like Dariush at 34 years old now is probably going to gas out a little bit harder. But I'm not super sold on that because I have seen Arman gas out. I have seen Dariush. The thing is, Dariush looks like he's completely gassed 2 minutes into every fight, but then he fights through, and he actually dropped Gamrot, I think was in round 3. Was it in round 3 of their last fight? He dropped Gamrot, or round 2? It was later on in the fight where he dropped Gamrot. I think it might have been in round 3. And so he looks gassed after 3-4 minutes, but then he just pushes through. But in a 5-round fight, is he going to be able to push through? Maybe he can push through mentally. He knows he doesn't have long to go in a 3-round fight. In a 5-round fight, it's very tough mentally. That's why they're called championship rounds, because that's where champions are made. So I don't know, man. It's just a weird dynamic for me in this fight on multiple levels, but I definitely think Beneil Dariush is wide. I think that Dariush is going to be able to defend the takedowns early. I think he's going to be able to scramble early. And I think on the feet, he's probably a better striker, right? I do think that his chin is worse. So I think that I actually kind of feel like Arman Tsarukyan is going to get a come from behind win where Dariush is looking clean and Arman just lands a shot, kind of like Drakkar Klose did, but this time he closes the show. But like Dariush will look like minus 200 up until he gets finished. But I can't bank on that. I don't mind the play on Dariush here. I think Dariush is the side, and I don't really see how you can not believe he's the side at plus 240. I mean, it's just tough for me to see that. I guess the 5-round, like 3-round fight, man, I'd go heavy on Dariush. But 5-round fight, I do favor Arman. I think it changes the dynamic mentally as well as physically. And yeah, I don't know. I'm going to say that I'm just going to say that the line's wide and Dariush is the side here. Nothing more to say, guys. I'm done here. We got 91 live viewers in here right now. So shout out to everybody. I appreciate everyone for being here, man. I'm going to go look at some cars now. Your boy's out. It's been an amazing, amazing year, man. And it's been such an amazing year that I'm treating myself to my dream car, one of my dream cars, right? So all I have to do is thank the bookies. All I have to do is thank all of the bookies. I ain't going to name all of them. I do that in some of my videos. Shout out to Sportsbet, Bet365, Bet Online, Betfair Sportsbook Exchange, all of these people that have enabled me to win a lot of money this year. Shout out to everyone, man. It's been a fantastic year. It's been the best year of my gambling career in terms of the amount of money I've earned. And I'm just going to keep running it up. Hopefully I can earn enough money in these last 3 weeks to make the blow on the Aston Martin or the BMW i8 hurt a little bit less. But it's cool, man. It doesn't hurt that much anyway, because we're cashing every single week for the most part. So yeah, man, thanks everyone for being here. If you want to cash with me this weekend, and if you want to sign up to my service, support me and earn money doing it, then you can do it on lucrativemmabetting.com. We have multiple packages there depending on what type of service you want. There's about 4 events left of the year, UFC and other events, and we're going to go out with a bang to end the year. I'm very, very committed to ending the year with a bang because I don't want to end the year with a bad taste in my mouth. It's impossible to because of the amount of money that we've won this year. But if we end the year on a multiple event winning streak, it's just going to make everything sound even better. So that's why I'm going back and doing more tape. That's why I'm going back and watching the Kelvin Gastelum, Sean Brady tape twice, because I'm so committed and dedicated to winning at the end of the year. So yeah, if you want to sign up to me and earn money, lucrativemmabetting.com. The link is in the bio. Outside of that, shout out to everyone for watching. I'll be back next week. Glimbot, vlog your car buying. Yeah, I should be doing that. I should do that. I probably will. Have fun. Enjoy the ride. Thank you, brother. Cannabis Connoisseur. Shout out to you. I will vlog it. Shout out to you, James. Let's get it this weekend. Zato Flem. We got Mushroom. Shout out to my man, Mushroom. Cannabis Connoisseurs. Fubu. Let's get it. Good luck, everyone. F the bookies. Always.